Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. Check us out on Instagram at JoshDJ57. That's JoshDJ57. I have food reviews up there in case you're wondering what my thoughts are on different places in Southern California. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel right now if you haven't done so already. Also tell your friends. And our conversation continues now with Tony Cox. And last time we were talking about Chicago. And here's some more stories about the Windy City, specifically about the apartment buildings featured in a very famous sitcom.
Mayor Daley, when I first moved there, this is a weird story talking about this, there was something called Cabrini Green. It was a social experiment where Mayor Daley built this beautiful twin high-rise apartment complex in the middle of upper Chicago on the north side. And he moved people from the south side into a new complex, with the theory being that you can change their social status by changing their environment. It was a huge disaster. There's a movie called Cabrini Green, and it shows it. It's a documentary. It was a failure, and I just happened to be there when it opened. And I flew there and landed, and I was staying at the Chicago Hotel on Michigan Avenue, just 5 blocks from this experiment. Beautiful, brand new complex. And I remember walking one night. I'd only been there a week. I went for a walk, and I walked east, and I was looking at this beautiful apartment, brand new. I'm going, wow, that's really nice. And a cop across the street parked there. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "What are you doing? This is Cabrini Green. Why are you walking over here?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're going to get killed. Get in the car." And he took me back. He goes,
Wow.
"Don't go past." Yeah, and it failed. Watch the documentary, Cabrini Green. I was there, and after I found my first apartment, moved in, it made news because they had to go back and retrofit the windows in this high-rise with bars because the residents were throwing people off their balconies, killing them all.
Ooh.
It was just a disaster. It was like all the gangs came there from the south side and shot it up. And it brought crime up there instead of trying to change the class of society through. If it were that simple, I mean, we'd send everybody to Disneyland. Hey, go there and live there for a year. You'll be okay.
It was interesting you mentioned that because Cabrini Green was the apartments they filmed outside of the opening credits and closing credits of Good Times. There were a bunch of buildings, yeah.
It was?
It was, yeah.
I thought that was New York. Was that Chicago?
It was in Chicago, yeah. Maude took place in New York, and that's where Florida was originally Maude's housekeeper on that sitcom, which was a spinoff of All in the Family. And then Maude spun off to Good Times. But the Evans family had been living in that apartment complex for 20 years, so the story of Maude was completely ignored. And it's like, Florida lived in Chicago all this time, even though she was a housekeeper in New York on Maude. That was another kind of funny show because Maude insisted Florida always enter through the front door, even though the side door is closer to her car that she parked in the driveway. Now, Florida, I want equality, so you enter through the front door. She's like, "But Mrs. Finley, it's closer to enter through the side door, not the front door." But
point to be proved. There's the shortest distance between 2 points when it comes to social levels is not a direct line. It's anything but. It's a circle around, and as long as you get there. So,
yeah,
but it's fascinating, and I think radio really, for me at the time, I was like 20, maybe 27, maybe. Yeah, 25, I think. I'm trying to remember, but it was just a wonderful time to be in radio when AM was transferring over to FM. All of a sudden, FM opened up, and AM kind of went to news, talk, and sports.
It was interesting you mentioned that because WLS 890 was a big top 40 powerhouse.
Huge. Number one for Larry Lujak, and that's who we were going over.
Yeah.
It was like going up. It was David and Goliath, literally, except Goliath all of a sudden had nothing. No one. It didn't matter how big you were in the image of AM collapsed. It's the foundation they were standing on. It wasn't the radio station. They were wonderful. Had they come over to FM and tried to compete with us on the FM signal, I don't know if we would have been so instantaneously successful. I think it would have taken a battle if they could have taken their core audience from AM, saying, "Hey, AM's dead. There's a new FM, and we're going to join them. We're going to take over KBLX or WBLX or whatever it is, and we're going to take WS over there right now, Larry Lujai." But they didn't, and so many didn't. Yeah. And, that was back in the day when you only had one AM and FM in any market. You couldn't just say, "Hey, what FM are we going to put this on?" Because you only had one. and it was a very big gamble to say, "Oh, okay, it's FM, and, people are listening." And, it's hard to go in and sell to clients, even getting the international clients, the network, the network spots, the national clients, to convert over to spending their dollars on FM. They couldn't understand why, because we had no numbers. We had 0 numbers. And why would we do that? Because we got everybody listening, man. They're all surfing our beach, dude. Come on out and enjoy it. Well, we can't justify that kind of expense. So it was like pulling teeth the first couple of years, but then, when the ratings came in, wow. And it just flip-flopped. It was like, okay, great. Well, how much do you want to spend, and when do you want to spend it? It was wonderful. Our sales department didn't even go out. They just answered the phone. How much you got? When do you want it?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That's great. And you also, what was the most interesting contest at WeFM that at the time you were there?
Interesting or controversial?
How about both?
Okay. Which do I start with? Well, the interesting thing is the talent that came into us. We had Jerry Clifton and all the greats from AM World forever came over to us. And we had the best promotion department. I'm not talking the station. I'm talking connections with promoters, record labels. They were the ones at the very top. They all Atlantic, everybody, when AM quit playing, they all came to Jerry Clifton and Steve Rivers and some others to allow us to service their product. It was cool. They had a lot of good product back then too. I mean, there was a lot of good groups. Bob Seger and Stones came out with Some Girls, and the disco era with Saturday Night Fever. Some of the neat things that were coming out back then too, with the Who. There was a lot going on in 77, 78, and the record companies were transitioning from AM and FM. So all the people that knew us catered to us. We had all the stars come through. I'd go to work one day, Kiss would be there, the band Kiss. Just,
wow.
Hey, how's it going, man? We'd go on the air and talk. Limos would pull up. I mean, so many every day, because they all went through Chicago. Not all of them went West Coast. Not all went East Coast, but they all had to play the Midwest, Kansas City, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, all of those. There was an amphitheater back then in Wisconsin. I forgot the name of it, but all the stars played there in the middle of nowhere, one of the first big outdoor arenas. And because it was Chicago and they had a show in Chicago, they just had their limo people and the sound people drive them out to the amphitheater. In Wisconsin, they'd do another off-night show and double their money. And it was packed in the summer, of course, all 2 weeks. Anyway, so everyone came through Chicago. So I think that was the contest, if you ask. Those were the contests. We gave away 99 tickets, 99 pairs of tickets to all concerts because we were in 99 WeFM. So anybody who came through, they came to us. They didn't go to, maybe they went to WLS, but they stayed with us all day. We had to throw some out. We had such fun times. I mean, we had the studio above the control room, if you know what I mean, the craft services. And so it was fun. It was fun. And so those stories, and so I think that was, but the most controversial contest that I had ever been through was the genius of Jerry Clifton. Yeah. I guess. It was 1978. I believe that was the 25th year of the Corvette Stingray? Silver anniversary. I could look it up, but whatever that year was, 77, 78, maybe. I don't think it was 79, but General Motors gave us 2 silver anniversary edition black and silver Corvette Stingrays before they went on the market to give away, 2 of them. WeFM. And it was designed around a contest that made listeners listen constantly with a freaking stopwatch almost. It was designed around a Corvette that is imaginary. It's the WeFM Corvette a Day Getaway. Every morning at 7:20, our morning jock, Jay Stone, is going to start up the imaginary WeFM Vet. It's going to take off and cruise for 55 miles an hour. And all you got to do is be here at 7:20 when it starts up and takes off, and then keep listening until you hear the brakes and the engine comes to a stop. Could happen at any time, and then stop your counter and figure out how many miles on the odometer at 55 miles an hour during that time. Very complex, but very simple. So we had listened. This went on for like 3 weeks. We would start it every morning with Jay Stone, 7:25 time start. Corvette away, giveaway. We're going to start at 7:20. Ready? And you would hear it. Okay, it's at 55 miles an hour. Keep listening, and when it stops, add up the time. At 55 miles an hour, how many miles did it travel in 3 hours? At 55 miles, it could be 90 seconds. I mean, there were times when we would start it up, run it for a stop set, and stop it. At any time, we could start and stop the vet, and you had to listen and add it up. Does that make sense? It was freaking crazy, but it was that simple. To win a brand new Corvette, it was that simple. And then when we added up all the mileage, the person who came closest won the vet. So we did it the first time. It was unbelievable, man. It was a 3-week promotion. Unbelievable. Our cume. I mean, our quarter hour. Our cume is through the roof, but our quarter hour, the length of time a listener stays with a station without changing, went through the freaking roof, which is why people pay commercials. They, if you have 1 million listeners, but they tune out every 7 minutes, they're not listening to your commercials. But if those 1 million people listen for an hour, the client is guaranteed that they will hear their commercials. So that's the marketing element, and it worked beautifully. So we gave away the first one, and Cherry comes into the studio because I was his production director. He goes, "Hey, let's do a promo." He talks like that. So I ran the tape, and he goes, "WEFM, we just gave away 1 Corvette with the WeFM Corvette giveaway." So we've given away. He goes, "We told you we were going to give away 1, 2 free Corvettes." He said free, not free. So the promo every time, the station that gives away 1, 2 free Corvettes. Well, we only gave away 2, and one listener said, "Hey, are you going to give away the 3rd Corvette?" And Jerry goes, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Well, you said 1, 2, 3 Corvettes." He goes, "Oh, no, I said 1, 2 free Corvettes." Well, back then we didn't have loggers. I didn't even have a script. He would just come in and ad-lib, and I'd produce it. I didn't have a script. There was no court record saying that the script read 1, 2 free Corvettes. We had the promo. You could hear the promo, but the judge and everyone, because, I mean, really, it could have been interpreted. I mean, 3 free, 1, 2 free Corvettes, 1, 2, 3. Because he said it like 3, but he put the F word in, and he used the F. Free, not free. But that's interesting, because back then there were no real, it wasn't bait and switch. I thought it was a very creative thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't work, so we had to buy a 3rd Corvette and give it away. Now, this is all to my recollection. I'm sure Clifton's going to laugh if he hears this, but yeah.
Well, it's much more ethical than what KRLA Radio did under the ownership of Jack Kent Cooke back in the early 60s, which ultimately lost him the station. We're talking with Sacramento radio personality Tony Cox, and next time we'll have more stories about KRLA 1110 and what eventually happened to it.